So I remember my first sociology class I took in college. I didn't even really know what sociology was at the time. Knew what psychology was, of course, but not so much sociology. And I opened the book and I read the first line in the book, and it said, "Man is a social animal." Yeah, that's pretty profound. So we're sort of like apes, and that we need a tribe. And we don't do well like an ape if we get kicked out of the tribe or if our relationships with people don't go well. And so, what I'm going to talk about today is a way of managing conflicts and disagreements with people. And it's really, if you can do it well, it's really high level functioning. And if you can't do it well, you're like most people because we don't handle conflicts and disagreements very well automatically. So I want to talk about this young woman that came in to see me last week. She's a pretty young woman, attractive, spunky, very assertive, and she had a pretty good depression going on, and she had panic disorder. Her panic disorder was a little different from other people's. It was different in that she's highly aggressive / assertive, but her conflicts with other people generate a lot of anxiety for her, and that anxiety builds up and really becomes panic. A different kind of panic than usual. It's kind of an aggressive sort of panic. So some people get panic and it's fight or flee chemicals that are going on in your body. And a lot of people sort of take the flee, they withdraw and their world becomes smaller. But some people have those same chemicals and they turn it into conflict. So this is about how you manage conflict. So she told me this story about her boyfriend was in the shower, and she decided she wanted to go be seductive with him, but she didn't tell him what she had in mind, and he sort of wanted privacy. So she got her feelings hurt, got angry, and decided to have a disagreement with him about whether he said goodbye to her or not. Kind of a made-up deal, but the conflict was real. So I said to her, okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much were you trying to meet your partner's concerns? And she looked at me with a blank look on her face and said, not much, maybe a 2 or a 3. So this is on this bottom axis, the x-axis, how much do you try to meet the concern of the person you're having a conflict with? And she knew right away that she really wasn't trying to meet his concerns at all, maybe a 2 or a 3. And then I said to her, how about your concerns? How much were you trying to meet your concerns? And she says, oh, really high, 9 or a 10. And this would be a 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So she saw that right, that she was up here highly assertive and not very cooperative. So this bottom scale, I call it cooperation, but how much do you try to meet the concerns of your partner? So she's up here in this quadrant. Now you notice I have the 5s X'd out. So they can't choose 5. So they can choose a 4 or they can choose a 6. So think about yourself. If you're in a conflict or disagreement with somebody, where are you on this chart? And then we will go into what this says about you in terms of how you manage how much you try to meet the concerns of the other person, and how insistent are you on getting your own way. So she nailed this one, okay? And this one is kind of self-concerned.
Go ahead and take a drink whenever you want.
And then I showed her what was in that quadrant: self-concerned, selfish, tense, angry, and distant. And she said, "Yeah, that sounds like me." You know. So she wants to be close to him, but she doesn't have the skills to do it. And one of the things I said to her, well, I mean, I think it's great you wanted to be affectionate with your boyfriend, but you didn't really tell that to him. And when I'm in the bathroom, I like a little privacy personally. You know, I'm open for some seductive stuff with my partner, but I'd like a little heads up on it, you know. Make sure it's not when I'm blowing my nose or something. So she laughed when I said that and kind of got the idea. So she is up here in this kind of angry, assertive, I've got to get my way, which she owns about her own personality. She knows that's true about herself. But she's not very good at figuring out what's going on with the other person. So you can tell a lot of information about yourself and other people by looking at a chart like this. So I'm going to put the title of these quadrants on here. This would be withdrawn. And this would be accommodating. So withdrawn is you're not very assertive or cooperative, you're just more isolationistic. And this one is you try to meet the concerns of other people, but you don't really advocate for yourself. And this one produces a lot of anxiety. But so does conflict. And this is kind of a formula for conflict, that you're not very concerned with the other person, not really understanding where they're coming from, and highly concerned with getting your own way. Now, I think that this stuff is teachable and learnable. And I think when you learn how to do this, your life gets better. And one of the things I'm an expert at is helping people treat panic disorder. And one source of anxiety is conflict with other people. Not just conflict, but managing to assert yourself and vote in the election whether your candidate wins or not. And that would be here. Not voting, giving in to the other person. But the sweet spot in all this is this quadrant. And this is collaboration. And collaboration is highly assertive and highly cooperative. And when we learn how to do this, and again, I think it's kind of rare and high-level human functioning when we can do this well. I know I do it well some of the time, and some of the time I don't, because we all fail at this stuff. But if you're not getting something resolved, you're probably not doing this right. And to collaborate, it takes a lot of social skills. First of all, you have to know what you think and feel. You have to be able to put it into words. You have to be able to sense what the other person thinks and feels. You have to ask questions to figure that out. And it's really high-level functioning. And we could use a lot more of it. So a lot of times people go from accommodating and giving in to other people to being really angry. And then this doesn't work for them, so they go back to this one. So they go back and forth between accommodating other people and giving in to them, or being really frustrated with that and trying to get into a I win, you lose situation. But so let's say a person's here and they're very assertive, okay? Even angry, even aggressive. What do they have to add to that to get to collaboration? A skill they probably already have, but they're not using, and that is to figure out what the other person's thinking and feeling and wanting, ask those questions, listen to them, and then try to see if you can figure out something that works for both of you. So if this doesn't go well, it sets you up to have symptoms. It's one of the symptoms is you end up anxious or frustrated, angry, maybe even depressed because you're not getting along very well with other people. And remember, what I started off with is we're social animals. We have to make these relationships with other people work. And if they don't work, we're going to end up with symptoms of one kind or another. And I think it's teachable and learnable. And people usually really like seeing a layout like this and see they're pretty honest with where they're at in the process, and we figure out what they need to change. So let's think about a person who accommodates. They're already giving in to other people. They're already thinking about the other person's needs. So what do they need to add? They need to add speaking up, finding their own voice, telling people what they think and feel, explaining themselves, voting in the election, getting their ideas out on the table. So this person needs to add assertiveness. And what does this aggressive, assertive person need to add in order to get here? They've already got assertiveness, but they're low on this axis, which is cooperation. So they need to listen better. They need to answer questions. They need to be able to say, is that what I hear you saying is that right? And move here, because this makes us more calm. We have that tribe because we're getting along with other people. And if we're here, we're kind of out on our own. And this one leaves something to be desired too, as does this withdrawn quadrant. Okay, so one of the reasons I like this is people can own where they are in this pretty easily. They can begin to take some responsibility and see what they're doing wrong. And even if you do this all right, it doesn't mean that you're going to solve problems with the other person, but it's the best chance you have. So I think about a four-step process in trying to get there. And the first step is, if this doesn't work out well right away, then I think you need to, or what works best, I think, is number one, set an appointment. So say something like this. I'd like to talk to you about this situation that we're struggling with. When would be a good time for us to talk? And the person might say, right now. Let's just talk right now. And I encourage people to say, no, let's talk this evening after the kids get to bed. Let's talk on Saturday. Let's set up kind of a business appointment to talk about it. And that would be that you would include the time and the topic. For example, I might say, if I was talking to my wife, let's talk about the stuff you have in my office. I'd like to talk to you about what we're going to do about that.
You're pocket butt dialing me with your phone right now.
Yeah.
That's fine.
And the first step is let's try to set up an appointment to talk about it. So you say what you'd like to talk about. In this case, the example that I just gave, the topic would be, let's talk about how we manage affection in the bathroom. How we manage, how do I let you know that I'm interested in some romantic time with you? That would be the topic of that conflict. Okay, and then the second thing is, what are your ideas about X? Well, I'm not gonna use X. What are your ideas about the topic? Okay. And during this time, if you want to get to here, you've got to listen. Okay? You've got to repeat back until you get it right. So what I hear you saying is this, that you would like some privacy in the bathroom. Is that right? No, not exactly. What I'd really like, he says, is I'd like you to let me know what you want so you just don't surprise me with it, or whatever it is. But until he says, yes, that's right, you got to keep asking those questions. And then the third thing is, here are my ideas. So this one, when you're on this step 2, you have to use active listening. And that's a term that we know in psychology, or look it up, because it just means that you're really trying to forget about your wishes for a minute, just trying to really understand where the other person's coming from, instead of they're talking and you're thinking about what you're going to say next. So active listening here. And then here are my ideas. Okay? And then the fourth step is how can we work this out? And this involves brainstorming. So you're trying to get to some agreement. Maybe it's more than a compromise. It's really understanding where the other person's coming from, what rings their bell, and explaining what this means to you. So it requires a lot of social skills. This requires social skills. And this four-step process is part of how you get here. And again, I think it's teachable, I think it's learnable, and I think it's uncommon. Like if I'm having a conflict with somebody and it's not working out, then I need to go, did I set a time and a topic? Did I ask, or did I just spring it on them that I wanted to talk? That's kind of my weak spot. I kind of assertive in that way. I can just say, just launch into it without giving the other person time to be ready for it. So then I got to go, well, did I find out their ideas? Did I listen closely? If it's not working out, I probably didn't do that well. Did I express my ideas? Did we get to how can we work this out? Probably not, because I didn't do these things in a coherent way. So this takes some discipline, but it's a good way to see where you messed up too. Ask yourself, did I do this? Did I do this and this? So I'm very excited about this because I think we can help people get to collaboration. And there's a clear path of how to do it. And people find it really helpful to kind of see this laid out. And it gets them on the way to doing their best to get up here. Anyway, if you have questions or comments about this, drop me a text message. Let me know if you have questions. Maybe we can address it next time we talk.
Can you talk about, so you invented this or made this up, right?
Yes.
So how did you come up with this?
Well, some of these ideas are in other places. I just kind of, read about collaboration. I'm aware of these two concepts about being assertive and cooperative. The main thing, when I do therapy with kids too, and here's the main thing I work on with kids is, let's teach them how to cooperate. Kids these days are highly assertive. They know what they want. They go all out for it in general, but they're not very good at cooperating. And I define cooperating with kids as doing what your parents want you to do. Like what a concept, doing what your parents want you to do. And like I have therapy dogs that come with me to therapy, and I'll trick the kids into cooperating. I'll say, will you help me get the dog some water? And of course they will, they'll cooperate gladly. We'll go get the dog water, feed the dog water. They feel good about doing that. They all like the therapy dogs. So we get this, just this one skill that we work on. And it's a really important skill. And kids are missing this. They're highly assertive sometimes, knowing what they want, knowing that they want to play their video games, knowing that they want to stay up late, but they're not very good at doing what their parents want them to do. And So I find a lot of traction just in terms of really working on this and teaching them how to cooperate. Because if they just stay assertive, their relationships don't work out very well. But if they can add this, it makes life go a lot smoother for them. And their parents really like it too. But sometimes I even try to teach them how to collaborate. Let's say their parents say no to one of their requests, and they can say, well, if I can't do that, what about this? What would you think if I did this instead? And they can get a little dialogue going, trying to solve the conflict between them on a not on an advanced scale, but on kind of a primitive scale. So I use that in my therapy with kids a lot, and really kind of in a simplistic way. So I think we can get a lot of mileage out of this. I'm really excited about these ideas. If I write another book, I think it's going to be on this. Because, again, it goes back to that initial thing I said. Like, we're a social animal, and we have to get this going with people. We have to learn how to work together with people if we want to have less symptoms and have better self-esteem and better relationships with other people. If we can do this, we just take leaps and bounds in terms of getting better in a mental health way. So
When did you like come up with this? How long ago?
I've been working on this for a couple of years.
Really?
Yeah.
It was kind of recent.
Yeah.
It's very cool.
And it's, again, there are pieces of this that you can find here and there, but I think I've put it together and summarized a lot of stuff and developed this 4-step process. I know where I got some of these ideas. Some of them have just, like this diagram. I really love this diagram in terms of, if you say to somebody, well, how much do you try to meet your partner's concerned? It's really easy to say 5, but you got to say 4 or 6. You can't say 5. So let's decide which part of that line you're on. And I don't have anybody complain too much about me taking 5 off the chart. So
honestly, I was wondering why you were doing that, and I was like, that's really smart to take it off because people will always want to go to 5.
Yeah.
And so,
well, I guess 5. No, you can't say 5. You can say 4.9 or 5.1, but
yeah. That's really cool. So when you're working with those kids, so you say you actually like invite their parents into this process for them to start thinking about it?
Frequently, especially if it's a kid under 12, I would mainly prefer seeing them with their family.
And then so you actually have the parents walk through and think about, where were you on this? This disagreement. Do they not like that at first? They're like, oh, now I have to think about this.
No, I think the parents really want to do a better job parenting, and they welcome any kind of suggestions how to do it better.
That's great.
Yeah. And they really like this sort of a model. And part of this is, like, if a kid has an anger problem, this is a great model to work with.
Do kids ever have panic? I'm sure I've asked you that, but I can't remember.
Yeah.
Really? That's crazy.
Yeah, if they've been through a lot of trauma.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So anyway, I think this is really good stuff. I'm excited about it. It's very workable. People accept it. It helps them see where they are instead of just talking.
Where's like the bottleneck when somebody's first learning this? Where does somebody usually have issues?
Well, I think that that story I told about the young woman, that she knows she is assertive, and she's kind of proud of it, you know, but it's also part of why her relationships don't work. And what was really helpful, I've seen her 1 hour, and she got it. That, I mean, yeah, she's up here, and that's kind of selfish, kind of self-centered, angry, distant, a lot of conflict. And, you know, this is a lovely young lady, you know, but she really needs some more skills. And, you know, we just talked about that, you know, like this is good. You don't have to give this up, but you got to add something to it, you know. And this is good, being highly cooperative. But if you're so cooperative that you don't speak up, then you end up in trouble in another way. You know, you end up kind of jumping up here and being angry, and then that doesn't work. So you get back in here even stronger. But that's not what you need. What you need isn't anger. You need to speak up and try to get into problem solving. I want to talk to you about this one story that's coming up in my mind. I saw this young fellow, a real small guy, in therapy, and he was having a lot of trouble in school. And the school referred him to me. And he had a father who was kind of old school, and he was also big and strong. He was 6'4", probably 300 pounds. And they would actually get into physical conflict with each other. And that wasn't good. So I remember one time this kid got really mad in therapy, and his dad was in there, and his dad was motivated to try to get better instead of just being more firm and more harsh, because that clearly wasn't working. And I remember this one time, the young boy was just sitting really angry, just expressing how angry he was. And the therapy dog was Rowdy. Comes over and lays his head in the young man's lap, the boy's lap. And the boy says, "I can't even get mad with this dog's head in my lap. I can't even get mad with this dog's head in my lap." And his parents just looked at him and went, "Okay." And that might be a good thing, you know, and that might be a good thing. So in that case, his dad was up here. He was up here too, because his dad was his role model for what a male is supposed to act like. And they were both stuck here, and it did not lead to good results. So we helped the dad move, really bright dad, really good dad, but he needed more skills in how to deal with this young kid. But we helped the dad move to collaboration, and we helped the young boy learn how to, instead of being so assertive, in other words, they were both here, and that was the problem. But the young boy, we worked on how to cooperate. And I remember he would come into my office and check to see if the dogs needed water. I thought it was really touching. And so the dad's working on how to solve problems with him, and he's working on how you do what other people want you to do instead of just trying to get your way all the time. Anyway, I presented a workshop on this case at Stormont Vale. I called it lapidary therapy, and what I mean by that is we just keep just keep working at it a little bit at a time, like polishing rocks. That's lapidary. You put rocks in a jar with sand and water and just let it slowly roll and roll and roll. And that's what we did to get this young man better. And he learned how to be highly cooperative. It's very reinforcing, and I think it goes pretty quickly because it feels better to not be in conflict all the time. It feels better to, learn how to speak up instead of just giving in to people all the time. So it's a win-win for everybody when we can get this going. And again, if you can get the parents going on it as well, I mean, I think it's just really dynamic and works incredibly well. It's called generational transmission of anxiety. But I mean, I bet the dad had that same kind of dad, or maybe he didn't have one and he figured out since he was in the Army, this was the way to go, just to be the drill sergeant, but it sure wasn't working, and he knew that. But it's a big success story. In fact, the young boy who I talked about in that story he went into the Army, and he just referred his platoon sergeant to me for therapy, which was, really a nice compliment. Well, I mean, and really, his wife is the one that deserves the credit because, I mean, she was at her wit's end, seeing this huge guy and this little bitty boy get in physical conflict. I mean, that can't be pretty for anybody, But teaching him how to try to cooperate, how to try to get out of you gotta win this or your life's at risk somehow. Just it's not that hard to do what other people want you to do some of the time,
I have a question for you. So you said you try to teach them how to be accommodating by doing it through the bowl with the water. Do you then tell them explain to them hey,
yeah, you just did it. Look,
yeah,
you're cooperating with me. How's that feel?
What do they say?
Good,
Nice.
good. I mean, because the dogs are, I mean, they like the animals. They want to treat them well. They enjoy them. I mean, they're again, that therapeutic breakthrough was when the big dog put his head, I mean, he could put his 30-pound head down, and it was hard to concentrate on anything else.
Yeah, they're great dogs.
Yeah. So anyway, that's the thing I'm kind of most interested in right now is this stuff I'm presenting. And if this doesn't go well, if you don't learn how to do this, you end up symptomatic because if you're not getting along with people, I mean, that's pretty stressful right there, to end up in conflict all the time. And some of that conflict shows up in anger problems, and some of it shows up in anxiety problems. But, I mean, we have an inner desire for this. We may not have the skills for it, but we're drawn to it. And one of the things I say about kids is they're drawn toward mental health. They seek it out. I mean, if they're around it, they tend to want to go toward something that's healthy instead of just being in dysfunctional stuff.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
I think it's because we're social animals, and we want that connection. It's just sometimes people aren't very good at it.
That's
I mean, and they don't have the skills for it, but I think those skills are teachable and learnable. Yeah, so if this isn't going well for you, a lot of people end up with anxiety problems, which can even end up in being panic. And I'm an expert at treating panic disorder, and if you're having trouble with that, or you know somebody that's having trouble with that, click the link below. Get in contact with me. It's a pleasure to help people with that.